And while Deborah Weinswig stays on for the following session as well, we bid our farewells to Suzanne Langkau and Yanai Olon. Thank you for joining us. Well, online shopping would be a lot less exciting if it weren't for voice search. Most of us use Alexa or Siri in our daily lives, but using AI-powered personal assistants, consumers can purchase items by just speaking to their devices without having to log in and check out each time they shop. And that certainly facilitates things. So Deborah Weinswig leads this session, and we welcome Mmuze co-founder and CEO Rans Foni and Amir Koningsboot, co-founder and CEO at Twiggle, for some more insight into this topic. Deborah, over to you.
Great, thank you, Ben, so very much. And we are very excited here at CoreSight Research to be co-hosting today's event. Deborah Weinswig, CEO and founder, and we really sit at this intersection of retail and technology, which leads me to why I'm so excited to host this session. I'm a mentor at Techstars, and you know, over 5 years ago, we started to see a significant, if you will, increase in terms of those startups that were focused on voice and voice search. It was still quite early at that time. We think that Mmuze has really focused on the solutions that are right now for retailers. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Ron for his presentation. Ron, you're mute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for this kind words, Deborah, and for the opportunity. And I'll be very happy to share some of our thoughts and how we look on this growing trend of, it's actually broader than just voice interface, but voice is becoming an accelerator of all the virtual assistant trend that is there. And then we'll be happy to answer any question that you may have. So you can see my screen, correct? Great. So I think it's important to start just with a broader context of why this is becoming such a major thing in shopping behavior and user behavior. If we look very, the historical way of interacting online and specifically within commerce, it was all about search and browse. And this moved very quickly to more natural and intuitive ways of interaction. And maybe a good reference would be that e-marketers saw that already today, about 1/3 of US population are already using voice assistants for different purposes. If we focus specifically on what does it mean, what would be the opportunity, the business opportunity for such a usage and adoption, for the e-commerce huge market opportunity, it means that almost 1/3 of it, almost 1/3 of sales transactions that are happening are applicable for conversational AI and voice interfaces in different channels, and we touch about that. But there is a big challenge for a brand, for a business that wants to deploy those experiences. The commerce environment is really complex, and those technologies have to be able to cater for that. It starts from the fact that your shopping journey or user journey is very complex. It's not just one touch point. It can be a matter of different way of communication. It can be via messaging. It can be voice. It can be via typing into screens and maybe even devices with all the growing IoT kind of trend. But then also there are lots of integration and data sources that must be included in order to provide good experience. Those can be, of course, CRM and historical data, but also for the commerce environment, product catalogs are relevant, and payment services, and search engines and recommendations. So there are so many data points and systems that have to be integrated within the context of conversation and voice. And last but not least is the vertical expertise. It's one thing to search and discover product in the category of cosmetics and skincare. It's a completely different thing to search and discover products for the category of food and beverage and grocery. Every category has its own lingo, its own concepts, and those voice technologies have to be expert in that vertical in order to provide a good experience. So what is required here? Eventually, we are looking to create an interaction experience that will be, first of all, designed for the commerce environment that we touched just now, but eventually will provide a very vertical expertise type of assistant to the users and provide the value both to the user and, of course, the business value for the retailer. And maybe this is the point to introduce us. So a very quick overview. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Mmuze. We are a conversational AI, a voice platform for retail, designed for that. We started initially in the fashion space, and recently we expanded our product offering to the grocery space, and this happened before the corona. We can talk about that. This is now becoming massive in terms of how users are shopping online grocery. And we also got all kinds of recognition in that space, like a Gartner Cool Vendor in the conversational AI category and business partnership with MasterCard and others. But I want to maybe do and show an example of how voice and virtual assistant can be applicable for a very specific use case. And let's take online grocery, for example, and within that, we know that most of us use shopping lists or grocery lists to plan our future shopping. Some of us use just notes on the refrigerator, and some of us use dedicated apps. But eventually, if you think about our journey, when we go into the shopping itself, there is a disconnection between the shopping lists that were managed and the retailer shopping system or the cart. So what we did is, using our conversational platform, created, and we are now launching a new solution dedicated specifically on that. So let's see the quick video demo, and then I can explain.
Everyone tracks their shopping list in different ways. Jane and her family do the old-fashioned way, just writing items down as they pop up. Great, time to put in our order. But oh no, finding the items is so time-consuming. Maybe just pop up to the local store after work? But what if there was a much faster way? Instead of making Jane search manually for every item, simply create the cart based on her shopping list and a few personalized questions. How does it work? Jane just takes a quick snapshot of her list, types it, or reads it out loud to her phone or computer. Mmuze does the heavy lifting and recommends a cart that is best suited to her family's needs. What if she prefers a different brand? No worries, just change it quickly and remember for next order. And now, Jane can expect a full pantry by tomorrow.
Why this type of solution that can be actually useful for both the businesses and remove the friction from the user journey. First of all, if you think about it, connecting list to the cart can be done in the way the user finds it more useful. It can be an upload of the image that was taken, but it can also be like speaking to the application of the retailer, the website, or any other device. And then using the technology to translate that automatically to the right items and offer the substitute items or missing items and help the user to do this connection automatically. It's most important to focus on the use case. I think that one of the main things that we have learned, there is nothing like generic solution for all type of use cases. It doesn't work. You have to make sure that you understand the user journey and you connect that and connect the experience of the assistant or the voice assistant in the right touch point or in the right point on that user journey. And
Ron, I'm going to just suggest we take a pause since we have limited time so that Amir and I can ask you a few questions.
Sure.
We really enjoyed the presentation and the video. One of the things that CoreSight is doing in New York is we're working very closely with the mayor's office here to help those people who are less able-bodied or disabled. And much of that is around shopping, especially as you talked about early on, right? Grocery shopping and the kind of time of COVID. Can you talk about how this solution, how it's helped those who are maybe more challenged with getting out? And it really seems to me that you're doing some great work and changing the lives of people.
That's a great point. And actually, when we started with voice assistant, initially we thought it's just for the younger generation. And we were surprised to hear that actually this is not the case, because this can also be very useful. For example, if you connect voice search to the visual presentation on the website, then older people that maybe have more trouble to browse with the clicks and the filters, they can actually speak and do the refinement via conversation, and the visual representation is automatically being presented. So that's like one example that can be used not just for millennials, but maybe for disabled or for people that need more help or more intuitive way to communicate with the brand. So that's like one application that we saw that for a brand that has a, let's say, older generation kind of target audience, they found it very relevant for them and not just for the millennials, let's say.
Mir, do you want to use this opportunity to ask Ron a few questions?
Sure, yeah. So first of all, Ran, thank you very much. I've been waiting for voice search and for assistance to, you know, take hold for quite a few years. I think we all are. We've got very high expectations. And what I like actually, what you showed here is that it's not really just voice search. It's kind of a multimodal solution. What I wanted to ask are, what are the best practice? I mean, what are the habits that you're seeing form now in how people are actually using this, and which modalities do you think are going to be taking hold, or what kind of mix of modalities are you going to see take hold as a stable usage pattern post-COVID?
So that's a great question, and this reminds me how naive we were when we started with that, because we thought it's just making the technology available and this will automatically be.
Yeah.
But what we found out that first of all, it's a matter of the specific category and the shopping behavior for that category. It's one thing for users that shop grocery, and it's completely different way of shopping for fashion. I'll give you an example. If users in fashion, let's say, usually search for one item, with grocery, they search in one sentence for 5 or 6 products. I want apple and bread and tomato, etc. So one thing, in order to make best practice to make it work, you have to understand the way users shop and make sure that your technology can cater for that way of expression. The second thing is about the multimodality that you've mentioned. So again, for some categories, visual is very important, of course, like fashion. For others, not really. Grocery, it's not really important. It's more efficient. The way of conversation needs to be shorter, less assistant and more efficient. So second best practice is multimodality is very important, but it depends on the specific use case and the category. And then I would say that eventually it's also deploying that technology on the right points of the user journey. I'll give you the simple example. The simple example is that if you take a chatbot, and let's say that the technology is bulletproof, is excellent, but today, based on our experience at least, chatbot is perceived as a customer care channel. It's not a shopping channel. So it doesn't really matter that you deploy a very good technology. If that's not deployed at the point where users come with the right intent, it's very hard to drive business impact in a significant manner. So those are maybe 3 simple points of best practices, if that makes sense.
Ron, I'm going to close it out with one question is, after you see the consumer, let's just say, adapting to this new way of shopping, how sticky is it?
This is also an interesting point. So because we support multimodality, text and voice, and by the way, another point, just to go to back and then to answer you, is that we understood that in order to provide and to get this stickiness, you have to provide, from the user perspective, one context of a conversation. So if it starts with visual and then goes to voice and then to text, from managing this context, you have to make sure that this is possible. Otherwise, the user get, you get churn. So one thing that we saw when we started providing text and voice interaction, at the beginning, when we deployed it to the right point, and then users started, they didn't know that they can speak to the technology. This is another thing. There is an education process here. So you have to find ways to provide those hints to the users, not in an intrusive manner, but in a very helpful manner, that, by the way, if you are like a mobile user, etc., you get like the education that you can actually speak to the brand. We saw that once we trigger those points in the right timing of the user, when they have the openness for that, the patience for that, then
Ron, I think you may be frozen and we are out of time. So with that, I want to congratulate you on really addressing a significant need, especially for those who are less able-bodied, and want to wish you all the luck in the future and best of success. With that, Amir and Ron, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.